Hello and welcome to Inside the Issues. I'm Renee Ng in for Amrit Singh. For months, California's race for governor has been stuck in the mud, so to speak. And over that time, we've seen polls with undecided leading the field of candidates, Democratic concerns of a Republican versus Republican contest in November, and a massive scandal costing one of the candidates his candidacy and job in Congress. But while there's still no clear breakout candidate, we may finally have a top tier. According to that poll from EMC Research, former Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra is tied with former Fox News commentator Steve Hilton, both at 19%. And trailing them, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and Tom Steyer also tied at 14%. And we have former Orange County Congresswoman Katie Porter at 8%. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan is at 7%, and 14% of likely primary voters are still undecided. And joining us now for more is political commentator Mo Kelly. He's also a contributor to Inside the Issues. Thank you so much for being here, Mo.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with Xavier Becerra. Yes. His trajectory has been on the rise lately. But as a result, we've also seen an increase of negative ads against him, for example, notably from Tom Steyer. Is this a trend that we'll likely see continuing to Election Day?
Well, it's good news and bad news. If you're Xavier Becerra, you like to be in that position at the top of polling. And when you're at the top, then obviously they're going to start taking political shots at you, which means that your candidacy is real and that trajectory is really concerning for those behind him, like Tom Steyer, who seems to have lost his momentum in the past few days or week or so. He was polling much better and it's pulled back, and the gap between Becerra and Steyer has widened, which says to me that Steyer is losing steam and Becerra is picking up steam.
And also, speaking of some other candidates, Republican candidate Steve Hilton, he announced a plan today to boost film and TV production in California, possibly even supporting a tax credit that could go up to 60% for some companies. We're going to listen to some sound from his speech in Hollywood today and listen to what he had to say about this.
We invented the entertainment industry. We invented movies. We invented blockbusters, all of that. This is our home, and yet we are allowing it to die because other states in America, other countries are aggressively competing for the work and the jobs that go with it.
And we also had Tom Steyer. He released a 10-point Hollywood production plan. How big of an issue is this going into the race?
I don't know if this is an issue which is going to resonate with likely voters. Right now, the economy is still the most important thing. People are worried about this idea of affordability. And whereas the movie industry does have a lot of importance as far as the history of the state and also the future in an economic sense, it's much bigger than just a tax credit. You have to talk about the fundamental change of the industry where you have movies in full sound stages which have been built in different states. So California is not the only game in town. It's going to be more than just tax credits, which is going to bring these productions back here. We have streaming. You know, you don't need the full sets. You don't need the full accoutrements, they say, as once upon a time. So the landscape has changed fundamentally, and I mean that proverbially and literally.
And then, of course, speaking of some of the other candidates, we saw 8 of them on a debate stage right on Tuesday at Pomona College. And now some, of course, are obviously polling higher than others. But I'm curious, do you think that we're going to see a candidate or two drop out before the next debate?
Probably not, because staying in the race means that you have some card to play. You have some cachet. You have some sort of leverage. In other words, if I'm a lower polling candidate, and I don't want to use anyone by name, I can stay in and say, hey, if you want my endorsement, then you need to come to me and maybe promise me something, some sort of quid pro quo, which is legal, but there has to be something in it for that candidate. Otherwise, why would they drop out?
Of course, there's going to be another debate coming up, hosted by CNN on Tuesday. What are you going to be watching out for?
I'm looking for someone like Tom Steyer, if he's going to start throwing heavy punches at Xavier Becerra, or would he go after Steve Hilton? Because if you're a Democrat, you have to know that you're going to have to move some of the Democratic field out of the way. If you're Steve Hilton, I'm expecting him to do no harm. He's in a good position, but we all know that candidates can lose debates and with it lose their chance at election or a primary win by just one ill-timed quip or one bad moment. We've seen it on all levels of politics.
And now I also want to touch on something nationally. Yesterday, we saw the Supreme Court essentially weaken the Voting Rights Act. This decision could have widespread impacts on future elections in California. What do you see as potentially how that could impact here locally.
Well, it's very troubling. For those who don't know, the Voting Rights Act passed in 1965. Section 4 and Section 5 had to do with pre-clearance. And I need to go over this so people understand. That was the in other words, it kept states, bad actors, from employing techniques which were fundamentally against the law or suppress voting. This most recent decision in this week takes out Section 2, which means that you can't use race as a determining factor as far as the drawing up of districts or what have you. So you don't have the pre or the post. You don't have any type of real safeguards. How it relates to California is when the president, and he will, sends like ICE to monitor the polls, you don't have that legal backstop to say voters have had their rights infringed upon or the civil rights violations that the Voting Rights Act would guard against heretofore.
Okay. And then lastly, there's a big race, obviously, here locally. Race for LA mayor. Mayor Karen Bass, she's incumbent, but she has high unfavorability. And if we look at, let's say, prediction markets, right, Kalshi, she's coming in at third behind Nithya Raman and Spencer Pratt. I'm curious, how much stock should we put in these prediction markets?
Not a lot, pun intended. I mean, if you've seen it, I've looked at it at Poly Market, I've looked at it on Kalshi, you are talking about 20 to 30 point separation. That's not realistic. I don't think that's real. Is it determinative? No, not at all. I mean, it's possible for Karen Bass to lose this race, but to think that she's in third by 20 points, absolutely not. She is the incumbent. She has the most name recognition. She has the most money as far as fundraising. She is in the best position to continue on as mayor. Doesn't mean she will, but I like her chances.
Okay, so maybe these aren't necessarily the best things to be regarded seriously, these prediction markets for now. All right, Mo Kelly, thank you so much for joining us as always.
Thank you as always.
And coming up,